Yes, good afternoon everyone students. And yesterday we discussed up to the drugs classification and how the drugs are going to target a certain biomolecule. Isn't it? We discussed about the classifications based on drug as a target. We are taking nucleic acid, or we can able to target a protein, we can able to target a lipid, we can able to target a carbohydrate, like that we discussed. In that detailedly we discussed about how the receptor is going to acting as a target for a drug and how enzyme is going to acting as a target for your drug. These are the things we discussed already. And classifications we discussed 4. One is going to be based on pharmacological response, pharmacological effect. We given antacids, analgesics and all. And second one we given, one more is based on their structure. We discussed about sulfonamides, esters, alcohols. And one more classification is based on drug action, antihistamine, cardiovascular, like that we discussed, sedatives, hypnotics. But when we are going to have the first classification, what I explained is going to have the classification based on pharmacological response or pharmacological effect, what they are going to show. So that one we are supposed to discuss in detail. In that class we given, one of them is antacid. Antacids we are going to discuss now. First of all, what is antacid? The anti-acid, which is going to be acting against acidity, which is acting against acidity. How we are going to get acidity? So acidity, if you want to understand, we are supposed to know about the digestive system. I hope every one of you biology student is having a good knowledge about your digestion. How digestion is going to take place? When we are going to take the food, that food is going to be enter through the mouth, through esophagus, and it is going to be entering to the stomach. In stomach we are going to have HCl, hydrochloric acid, which is going to be acting on your food, and it is going to acidify the food, and then it is going to be get digesting that food some extent, and it is converting a long chain into shorter chains and all, then followed by your intestines, small intestine, large intestine, like that we are going to have, isn't it? So in this process, what we are going to have, acid secretion in stomach. When the acid is going to be secreted, when the acid is going to be secreted, say for example, all you are feeling hungry, when you are going to feel hunger, when we are going to get a burning sensation in the stomach, so that is only the acid secretion. Whenever acid is getting secreted, that is going to be a hunger signal for us, and we are going to make some food enter into our stomach, so that our HCl is going to be acting on your food what we are taken inside. If suppose you are not taken the food when hunger signals are coming, then what is going to be happen? HCl, it's a strong acid which can able to make its action on the stomach walls. Stomach is also having mucous membrane and then endothelium, then epithelium, like that you are going to have several membranes will be there for your stomach. So that stomach walls, if you are adding the food, on that food your HCl will add, acting on. But if you are taking the food, then no problem. If you are not taking the food, then the HCl which is secreted is going to be acting on your stomach walls. When it is going to be acting on your stomach wall, what is going to be happen? On the stomach wall, the mucous membrane will be there. That mucus is going to be get digested. So initially that mucus layer is not going to be having any problem. But when we are going to take that mucus layer digestion over, then it is going to be affecting on your endothelium. That is the internal cell thelium for your stomach. So when it is going to be get affected, obviously it is going to cause some ulcers inside. It is causing ulcers. But before causing the ulcers, and when we are having a starting problem, middle we are going to have the problem called acidity. What is this acidity? It is going to give some bumping sounds, and we will be having uneasiness in the stomach. So it is having filling, all these things will be there, the acidity. So that acidity, whenever it is there, we can't able to eat properly, we are not having a proper digestion. So that is the reason we are supposed to treat this acidity, and it is leading to the ulcers, then ultimately the people will die. So because of ulcers, the people can die also. That's why we are supposed to treat this acidity problem when we are going to have, that is earlier days, that is olden days, they are going to use NaHCO3. Earlier days, they are using NaHCO3, sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate. As acid, HCl, bicarbonate is a base. So this acid and this base is going to be get reacted and it is going to be get neutralized so that we can able to make the suppression of acidity. That is what their idea. Earlier days what they are giving, as they are having acidity more in our stomach, we are going to add some base. We know that the chemical reaction acid and base is going to give water and salt so that the acidity problem will be neutralized. That's what they are thinking, and they are giving NaHCO3 sodium bicarbonate solution to the people who are suffering from acidity. When they are having this problem, NaHCO3 is given. So no problem, we are going to have the HCl is going to be giving you the H2O so that it is going to be get neutralized, and we are going to have NaHCl. So that is what we are having the thing. But once how much of NaHCO3 I have to give? Say if I know how much HCl is there inside, I can able to give that particular amount of NaHCO3 so that I can able to neutralize. If at all I don't know the content present in the stomach, then how much NaHCO3 I have to give? Okay, I given some amount of NaHCO3, I has assumed, and I given some NaHCO3. So once this HCl is get neutralized, that excess of NaHCO3 will trigger more acid secretion. Will trigger more acid secretion. That means normally what we are suffering is neutralized. Now we are going to get more. Why? Because acid sensitive cells, when we are going to be present, they can be triggered by the basic when we are going to be. So that's why this base is going to trigger the more HCl secretion. So that is immediately causing the ulcers. Say if you are feeling that acidity, we can have certain time will be there, and after continuously suffering from acidity, we may get ulcers after some years. But here when you are going to treat this acidity, what is going to happen? Immediately we are going to get this one, and here we can able to get CO2 gas. CO2 gas is going to be liberated from this one. So when this CO2 gas is liberating, so this CO2 is going to make the people stomach very bumpy, very solid. So that is an extra problem to the person who is suffering from acidity. As we are having all these problems with NaHCO3, later they thought that we are not supposed to give this one, and we can give some metal hydroxides. We can able to give some metal hydroxides. What metal hydroxides we are going to have? A better one for us is aluminum and magnesium hydroxide. Later they given metal hydroxides. Usually are going to use magnesium and aluminum hydroxides. Usually are using magnesium and aluminum hydroxide. What is the importance of these magnesium and aluminum hydroxide? The NaHCO3 is soluble, that's why it is going to trigger extra amount to produce more HCl. Whereas this magnesium hydroxide and aluminum hydroxide, they are insoluble. As they are insoluble, they won't make the pH of your stomach will not be more than 7. As they are having here, the 7 is going to be crossing, even basic pH will come. That basic pH is going to trigger your more acid secretion. So, but here they will not make the pH will never be more than 7. pH is always maintained greater than or equal to 7, but will never be maintained more than 7, so that there is no triggering of acid secretion by these metal hydroxides, magnesium and aluminum. Usually they are using it. Understand? So compared to sodium bicarbonate, your metal hydroxides are very much better to make the treatment for your acidity. Now, when we are going to see these metal hydroxides also, what we can able to say is, we can make the suppressing of acidity once the people are suffering from acidity. Just clearly listen this statement. What this one or this one, what they are going to do? They are going to make the people who are suffering from acidity, just these are going to suppress the symptoms or suppress the acidic nature of your stomach, but not going to make any treatment for the cause of acidity. Do you understand? They are not making any treatment for the cause of acidity, just they are making the acid to get suppressed. So because of this reason, these two are not much advantageous for us. Why? Because they are not making anything to the causative for acidity, just they are making the symptoms to calm down. That's why the first drug, what is the first drug we are going to get for the treatment of this acidity is cimetidine. We are going to have, the first one is going to be cimetidine. The first drug which you are going to prepare against this acidity is cimetidine. Commercially this is called as Tegamet. Commercially this is called as Tegamet. Before explaining this cimetidine drug, first we are supposed to know the mechanism of acid secretion. When we can able to get the acid will be secreted, who is knowing about this acid secretion? So the time is not going to decide when it is going to be get acid secretion. Actually what we are having, a vagus nerve is there from brain, that is going to send the signal to your stomach. Yeah, your glucose levels are down. So now this is the time to get energy from your food, so that the HCl has to secrete. So when HCl secreting, then only we are going to get burning sensation, will take something food. So now vagus nerve is going to send the information. So now where we are going to have nervous transmission, that nervous transmission at the end we are supposed to have a neurotransmitter that is going to cause the action. So what neurotransmitter we are going to have here is histamine. Histamine is the neurotransmitter Histamine is the neurotransmitter which is going to make binding of your acid secreting cells. We are going to make acid secretion cells will have receptors. Those receptors are get binded by this histamine. That histamine, when it is going to be binding, then those cells will go to make the releasing of your HCl acid. What is going to be happen? This histamine will bind to the acid secreting cells, and then those cells are going to release the HCl once the neurotransmitter is get binded. Otherwise, it is not going to release any acid. Already we discussed the drugs we are going to give as agonist and antagonist. Now I am going to prepare the cimetidine. It's a Tegamet is a commercial name, and this is prepared as an antagonist. What this one will do? It is going to block the receptors which are responsible for the histamine binding, so that there is no action of histamine further. There is no action of histamine further. If histamine is not binded, acid will not be secreted. So this is the cimetidine drug which is sold under the commercial name Tegamet, and one more name we are having ranitidine. Commercially it is called as Jantac. Commercially it is called as Jantac. So these two drugs are going to be a very important antacids which are going to be synthesized by laboratories, and they are going to be administered for so many years. So many years these two are going to be sold out as a best antacid. We are having two more antacids which are going to be useful nowadays, omeprazole and lansoprazole. These are not there in NCERT, but sometimes they are asking, that's why I am writing here. The names to remember it is tough, but we are supposed to by heart, no other option for us. So omeprazole, lansoprazole, ranitidine, cimetidine. So we are going to get a question like which of the following drug is going to be acting as antacid. Then we can able to write any of them are there, we can able to choose the option. So we have to remember cimetidine, ranitidine, omeprazole and lansoprazole. These are the things we are supposed to remember. I hope everyone can understand antacids. Next we will go for the next one, antihistamines. Next one, antihistamines. What are antihistamines? The antihistamines are the drugs which are going to be acting against the action of histamine. What it is? Already I said antacids is going to be acting on the histamine receptors so that we are going to get acid secretion will be stopped. Now this is one more antihistamine I am going to discuss. Here the histamine is having two functions. One is going to secrete the acid and another one is going to be allergic responses. Wherever we are having allergic responses, there the histamine is going to be get secreted and it is going to cause inflammation. It is going to cause inflammation. During a normal cold, what you are having, any skin allergies you are getting, or any internally we are getting any allergies, for all these cases we are going to have the histamine is going to be secreting and that is going to cause local inflammation. It is going to cause local inflammation. Always we don't want that uncomfortability for our body. That's why we don't want to make that inflammation also in the body, so that if you want to make that histamine action to be stopped, we can able to prepare certain drugs which are going to be acting against this histamine release. And the best example we are having for this one is brompheniramine. Brompheniramine, Seldane. We are going to have one more is called Seldane, and this is called as Dimetapp commercially, and this is called Seldane. And we can have chlorpheniramine. And which is most important, commercially called as Benadryl. Commercially called as Benadryl, and its chemical name is diphenylhydramine. It's diphenylhydramine. So these are the four drugs which we are going to use for antihistamine purpose. The first one prepared is brompheniramine, which is commercially called as Dimetapp. Terfenadine is called as Seldane, and chlorpheniramine like brompheniramine, chlorpheniramine. And you are having diphenylhydramine, which is commercially called as Benadryl. They are going to be acting as antihistamines. So they are going to cause inflammation, that is histamine, that is going to be prevented or cured by these drugs. Now the question comes, when these drugs are taken, will they able to act as antacid or not? Will they act as antacids or not? Obviously we will get the question now. They are going to make the histamine receptor not to bind into your receptors. So that's why we are going to have, these are also same thing I am saying it, but the answer for this one is the antihistamines are going to block the receptors of the cells which are going to cause inflammation. But the secretion of acid receptors are different, secretion of this inflammation is different. That's why these are not going to be able to make the drug against acidity. They are antihistamines, they can able to make the inflammation to be get treated, whereas the antacids are going to be making the acidity to stop. Why? Because the receptors for acid secretion causing inflammation are different. Both of them are different. That's why they will not do the role of that. And histamine is also a potent vasodilator which is going to be useful for our body. And like that we are going to have many functions for your histamine. So those are all very important ones. And histamine is also causing some problems, so that we can able to block the histamine activity, so that they are all comes under antagonists. We are going to call them as antagonists. This is about your antihistamines. And next one we are going to have neurologically active drugs. The next class we can say it is going to be neurologically active drugs. In this neurologically active drugs, we are going to have tranquilizers and analgesics. Tranquilizers and analgesics. So what are tranquilizers? What are analgesics? Tranquilizers are going to be acting on your moods of your body or moods of the person, and analgesics is going to make the pain of the person to be get decreasing. So this is going to be painkillers, this is going to be mood swingers. We can call them as mood swingers. And the tranquilizers when we are going to take, here I can able to say it's not systematically, but I can call them as antidepressants, anti-hypertension, both. Both means both antidepressant and anti-hypertension. Both it will be. So that's how I can able to make three classes: antidepressants, anti-hypertension, both. Actually, it is not that much systematic classification. Just I am showing you for a better understanding for a student. So tranquilizers are going to be acting on mood swings, I said. So now antidepressant. So what is depression? I think every one of you are having an idea about this depression. Why? Because most of the students are undergoing depression usually. So what depression you are having, that is not called as depression. Okay, just it is going to be having some passiveness. Okay, but originally the depression or a mood of a person is going to be depending on hormone called noradrenaline. What it is? I think everyone knows about this hormone, adrenaline, noradrenaline. They are called as fight or flight or fright hormone. So that means if you want to fight also this hormone responsible, if you want to flight also this is responsible, if you want to get fright also this is responsible. So the mood of a person is going to be depending upon your hormone called noradrenaline. If this noradrenaline is going to be maintained in your blood, then your mood will be good. You will be feeling good. That mood will be good when the noradrenaline is maintaining in your blood properly. If at all this noradrenaline is not going to be present in your blood properly, then obviously the person will undergo depression. This is one cause for depression they observed is noradrenaline levels are not enough in your blood. Then they are going to cause depression for that particular person. So how we can able to treat this particular depression caused due to the adrenaline deficiency? We can have two drugs called iproniazid, phenelzine. This can be treated by iproniazid, phenelzine. So these two drugs are going to be treat your depression caused due to the deficiency of adrenaline. How they are going to make? Your iproniazid and phenelzine will cause the inhibition for the enzymes which are responsible for the catabolism of noradrenaline. When we are going to take any substance which is synthesized in our body by anabolism, the same substance can be decomposed by the metabolic pathway called catabolism. So this anabolism, catabolism combinedly called as metabolism. So here this noradrenaline is synthesized, and after synthesis it has to be get degraded. The degradative pathway is called as catabolic pathway. So with the person is having depression means obviously the noradrenaline is less in that body. So that's why we want to make what noradrenaline prepared in the body should not be get degraded. So for that, preventing the degradation of your noradrenaline, the two drugs called iproniazid, phenelzine will be given. They can be inhibit the enzymes which are responsible for the catabolism of noradrenaline, so that we can able to maintain the noradrenaline in our body plenty, so that depression can be treated. The depression can be treated, and they can be called as tranquilizers, so that they are going to be depression can be treated by using them. Depression can be treated by them. And anti-hypertension. Anti-hypertension. If you are going to take anti-hypertension, I think everyone will be knowing about this tension. So when we are going to have more tension, that is going to be causing the hypertension, which is going to be called as BP for so many things we are having. When we are going to have the hypertension, then that hypertension is going to be treated by meprobamate. Meprobamate, chlordiazepoxide. Chlordiazepoxide is the drug we are going to give to treat hypertension, so that we are going to call them as anti-hypertension. These are called mild tranquilizers. They are called as mild tranquilizers. And both will be there for the drug called Equanil. We are going to have Equanil is a drug which is a commonly used part of a sleeping pill. Usually the people who are having the psychological problem, they will be treated by taking the sleeping pills. That sleeping pills, definitely that Equanil is going to be the part. Why? Because it can show anti-depression and anti-hypertension. That's why Equanil is going to be present. And even you can have serotonin, Valium. Serotonin, Valium, these are all comes under strong tranquilizers, but commonly used one is Equanil. Other than this, we are having one more set we are going to be called as hypnotic drugs. They are derivatives of barbiturates. They are considered as barbiturates. Why? Because they are all derivative of barbituric acid. They are all derivatives of barbituric acid. What is barbituric acid? This is, we are going to have the barbituric acid, NH will be present, and we can have double bond O, and we can have the keto. Amides, we are going to have the diamide. So it is going to be diamide. Here we are going to have amide, and here we are going to have amide linkage, CONH. Sorry, NEET. So this is what we can have symmetrically, and we can have here NH. This is perfect. Okay. So this is called barbituric acid. The derivatives of barbituric acids are called as barbiturates, and these barbiturates we are going to have seconal, veronal, luminal, nembutal, so these are all commonly present barbiturates. We are going to have seconal, veronal, luminal and nembutal. So these are all commonly called as barbiturates, and they are going to be responsible for hypnotic drugs. Even amital also. Even amital. These are all commonly called as barbiturates. These barbiturates are going to be present as a hypnotic drug. I think everyone knows the hypnotism. They are going to cause, what you can say, the people who are going to treat psychological problems for a person, they are going to take the hypnotism as one of the treatment. During that, they are going to take this drug so that the people can able to get into sleep. So in that sleep, they are going to make some positive thoughts to your brain, so that the people can get out of the psychological problems they are having. When they are coming into a normal one, then the people can able to remember those positive thoughts what the person, hypnotic person has given, so that the people can able to become normal. So that is what we are all getting. All these are comes under neurologically active drugs. They are all comes under tranquilizers part. They are all comes under tranquilizers part. Now coming to analgesics. So analgesic name itself is going to indicate painkillers. So they can be of two types: narcotic, non-narcotic. Analgesics are of two types: narcotic analgesics and non-narcotic analgesics. Narcotic, what it mean? Additive. Addiction. This is non-addictive, non-addiction. We are going to have the addiction, non-addiction. Narcotic, non-narcotic. Analgesics are painkillers. narcotic analgesics are going to be mainly morphine, codeine, heroin. Actually, all these are going to be taken from opium puppies, so that they are called as opiates, commonly called as opiates. And these three are going to be narcotic analgesics. If a person is going to be using this one, then that person may get addicted to these drugs. That's why they are called as addictive or narcotic analgesics. But when we are going to have a severe pain, but that severe pain should be get treated by using narcotic drugs only. What is the severe pain we are having? During heart attack, that pain is not able to be bearable. During that time, these drugs are supposed to be given to the person who is having that heart attack. And labor pain, like pregnancy, when we are going to have the delivery, then that delivery time also this is going to be given. So these are all going to be a heavy pain can also be get treated by using this, but under the administration of a doctor only these should be taken. Otherwise, the person is going to be get more dose. Then obviously the people can get coma and then going to death. That is, it is what you can say stage wise. So the person who is having this one, they are going to be get addicted. So that addiction is going to make them to take continuously. When they are taking continuously, first they are going to have dementia. They will be in hallucination. So what they are going to saying, they don't know. In that situation, they will be stupor. Then they will be become coma. From coma to death. That's why it's very much dangerous drugs are having addiction in nature. That's why they are supposed to be under administration of doctors only should be. Coming to non-narcotic analgesics, they will be going for mild pains, like when you are going to take dental treatments, or when you are going to have some body pains we are going to get, or we are having some small fracture, then also we are going to use this one. Usual non-narcotic analgesics are going to be aspirin, paracetamol, ibuprofen. So paracetamol, if you are going to take, it is going to have antipyretic. Usually they are all having antipyretic. If you are getting any fever, body temperature is increasing, so they can have antipyretic ability also. They are having antipyretic ability also. These are all going to be treating mild pains. Understand? So this is very important one, tranquilizers and analgesics. So tranquilizers are going to be neurologically active drug which is going to be making the mood levels of a person. Here we discussed tranquilizers. In the tranquilizers we discussed antidepressants and antihypertension or both. If you are going for antidepressants, we are going to have noradrenaline catabolism can be prevented by those drugs. We discussed the drugs iproniazid and phenelgin. When you are taking antihypertension, the antihypertension we discussed the two drugs like meprobamate and chlordiazepoxide. These two are going to be mild tranquilizers which is going to cause the hypertension to decrease. And lastly we discussed about equinil, serotonin, Valium. So these are all the three are going to be coming under the both strong tranquilizers which are going to be like mainly equinil is going to be a part of sleeping pill. So which is going to cause less hypertension, less depression. And lastly we discussed about barbiturates which are having hypnotic in action. So they are causing sedation, sedatives, and these are going to be all derivatives of barbituric acid, seconal, veronal, luminal, nembutal and amytal. All these are going to be the example for barbituric acid. And we discussed about analgesics, narcotic, non-narcotic. Narcotic will be, all the three are called as opiates and they are going to be non-narcotic. They will be causing the mild pain, relaxation and aspirin, paracetamol, ibuprofen. we have to discuss about aspirin here. What is aspirin? Which is going to have anti-clotting ability also. It is going to make anti-clotting ability. That's why those who are having myocardial infarction or heart attack due to a blood clot, to remove that blood clot, aspirin is going to be injected. But aspirin nowadays was banned because it is causing some adverse effects into your body. That's why aspirin is also under the administration of doctor only we are supposed to take. Directly we can't take, it was banned. Understand? So this is about your neurologically active drugs. Next one, antimicrobial drugs. What is antimicrobial drug? The drug which is going to be acting against various microbes what you are having. What are the microbes we are having? We are having various bacteria, various virus, various fungi, and various parasites like protozoan parasites. We are having so many. So if it is acting against a virus, it's called as antiviral agent. If it is acting against bacteria, antibacterial agent. If it is fungal, antifungal agent. If it is acting against parasite, antiparasital. Like that we can able to give the names. Now broadly we can able to divide these antimicrobial drugs into antibiotics, antiseptics, disinfectants. We are going to have antibiotics, antiseptics, and disinfectants. These are the three types of antimicrobial drugs we are having. First we will see about antibiotics. What is an antibiotic? What is antibiotic? Anti-bio. Anti means against, bio means life. Against a life if you are using a drug. What's life you are using? A microbial life. Directly we are going to make a life threatening for another microbe. Usually the definition of antibiotic earlier days they given the chemical which is secreted from one microbe like fungi or bacteria and causing the death to the another microorganism is called as antibiotic. What it is? A chemical substance which is secreted from one microbe like fungi or bacteria to cause a death or to kill another microorganism. Every microorganism is having fear of another one. So that's why they are trying to make some toxic substances which are going to make the killing of others. So that is only we are going to collect and we are going to use it as an antibiotic. That is what earlier days they thought of. But now we have changed the definition like still more precise. What it is? A substance, a metabolic substance that should be derived from metabolism of one microorganism. We are going to use the whole substance or part of the substance to inhibit either growth or completely we are going to kill another microorganism. This is very precise. We are not going to use directly that chemical what is going to be secreted by the organism. We are going to take the metabolic product of one microorganism in whole or part of it to control the growth of another microorganism either by killing it or either by inhibiting its metabolic activity is called as antibiotic. Understand now? This is what we are going to call as antibiotic. The first antibiotic Paul Ehrlich. Paul Ehrlich is the scientist who worked on these antibiotics very well and he has given for syphilis, which is a very what you can say dangerous and it is going to cause so many symptoms for a person who is getting affected by syphilis. It is caused by a spirochete. A spirochete is causing the syphilis. For this syphilis disease, they developed first of all ARS phenomenon. A drug called ARS phenomenon, which is also called as salvarsan. ARS phenomenon is going to have arsenic, double bond arsenic. The Paul Ehrlich worked on, actually this ARS phenomenon or salvarsan is going to be administered for treating the syphilis disease, but that is going to get some adverse effects by these drugs. But what effects are going to be shown by these drugs are very less comparative to what symptoms are there for a syphilis patient. So that's why something is better than nothing. That's why we are going to treat that syphilis disease by using these drugs. But later Paul Ehrlich worked on this particular ARS phenomenon drug. He has observed what is going to be present here, arsenic, AS double bond AS. The same thing he observed in azo compounds where we can have N double bond N. He found that similarity between the ARS phenomenon and azo compounds, and he prepared the drug Prontozil. He prepared a drug Prontozil by using this N double bond N combination, and where we are going to make this Prontozil effectively causing side effects less and treating the syphilis. For this he got a Nobel Prize also, the Paul Ehrlich. So that is what we are going to have the history behind the antibiotic. First the syphilis was treated by ARS phenomenon or salvarsan, which is going to have AS double bond AS. The same thing he observed in Prontozil, he prepared where it is found in azo compounds. So that's why what is going to be happen inside the body when Prontozil enter into your digestive tract, it is going to be get converted to sulfanilamide. So which is an active component that is going to cause the death of those microorganisms. So that's why all sulfa drugs I already given, all antibacterial drugs are going to be sulfa drugs. That sulfa drugs are going to have sulfonilamide is commonly present. Sulfapyridine is going to be most effective antibacterial drug which we have prepared. That is going to have the pyridine is going to be attached to your sulfonamide, so that is going to be most effective antibiotic what we discovered against bacteria. Understand? So this is what we are having. Earlier who started this work, that is everyone knows about him, I think, Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming, who is the scientist who started working on these antibiotics. On which organism he worked? I think everyone knows, Penicillium notatum. Penicillium notatum, and he has isolated a drug named as penicillin. So that penicillin is going to have so many antibiotic properties. It can be causing whatever we are having the problems caused by infections. For all of them, they are going to be treating with this penicillin. That is going to be very good for so many years, like pneumonia, bronchitis, sore throat, for anything, whatever the disease we are going to get by an infection of microbe, they are all can be treated by using the penicillin, which is going to be isolated from Penicillium notatum. So the Alexander Fleming who worked on this particular penicillin. And coming to the antibiotics, they are going to have several classes of antibiotics you can able to. What are the types of antibiotics you know? Anyone have idea about the types of antibiotics we are having? So first of all, we can able to classify these antibiotics based on their effect. Based on their effect. bactericidal, bacteriostatic. If an antibiotic is going to be administered, obviously it can able to make the effect in so many ways. So what the many ways we can able to have that can able to kill the bacteria or kill the microorganism what you are having, or they can able to inhibit the what you can say the symptom which is caused by that microbe, that is going to be bacteriostatic. It is not going to kill the organism, just it is going to prevent what adverse effect caused by that particular microorganism. That is how we are going to have bactericidal, means killing, side, pesticide, fungicide, that is going to be killing. Static means it is going to prevent that effect caused by that microorganism. So when we are going to take bactericidal, they are going to kill the microorganism. Here we can take the examples. Ofloxacin, penicillin, aminoglycosides, These are all comes under the bactericidal antibiotic, where we can able to make the kills bacteria, and so that we can able to get cured by the disease, cured from the disease. Then they are going to be called as bactericidal. Then coming to bacteristatic. What is bacteristatic? They are going to inhibit what effect caused by that particular microorganism. Here we can able to take chloramphenicol, and we can able to write erythromycin. We can able to write tetracycline. So the examples are very important. We are supposed to by heart them only. Bactericidal and bacteriostatic, which are going to be having their role of passion to inhibit that microbe is different. They are killing the bacteria directly, and here they are going to make the bacteriostatic, that is they are going to inhibit the action of that microbe what it is caused. It's chloramphenicol, erythromycin, tetracycline. We are supposed to remember them, no other option. And one more classification what you are going to have. The spectrum. What do you mean by spectrum? The spectrum is nothing but the range of action of that particular antibiotic. It is a range of action of that particular antibiotic. I can have here broad spectrum, narrow spectrum, limited spectrum. The antibiotics can be classified into three types based on their effect, that is broad spectrum antibiotics, narrow spectrum antibiotics, and limited spectrum antibiotics. What is broad spectrum antibiotic? Which can able to kill wide range of microorganisms, that is both gram positive and gram negative. It can able to make gram positive as well as gram negative bacteria, that is wide range of bacteria, that is called broad spectrum. The range is going to be very broad. That's why we are going to call them as broad spectrum antibiotics, which are going to kill both gram positive, gram negative bacteria. That's why they are called as broad spectrum. The examples for them, all modified penicillins. All modified penicillins like ampicillin, ofloxacin, and if you can take chloramphenicol, and all these are comes under a wide range, that is broad spectrum. And narrow spectrum, which is going to make either gram positive or gram negative. It is gram positive and gram negative. Here it can be gram positive or gram negative. That is either one are going to be treating that we are going to call as narrow spectrum antibiotic. Here gram positive or gram negative. Here it is N, here it is R. Example for this one is penicillin Z. The natural penicillin what you are going to get, they will be comes under narrow spectrum antibiotic. And limited spectrum antibiotic is going to be a cell line, very specific. That is a particular microbe only we are going to have the antibiotic, then it is called as limited spectrum. It is a cell line only, then we are going to call limited spectrum. So what the example we can write for this one? Disidazirin. Disidazirin is an example for limited spectrum. Penicillin G is an example for narrow spectrum. Here we are having so many examples. Ampicillin, ofloxacin, chloramphenicol, vancomycin. So these are all the drugs which we are going to have will be making the gram positive and gram negative. Both bacteria can be killed by these bacteria. We are going to have then called as broad spectrum antibiotic. And chloramphenicol is going to be useful for typhoid fever. And the vancomycin, ofloxacin, common antibiotic we are going to use for any stomach pain we are going to have. That infections can be treated by using these drugs. Okay. So these are all comes under the spectrum, that is range of action of a particular drug is going to decide either broad spectrum or narrow spectrum or limited spectrum. These are the examples you are supposed to by heart. And here it is bactericidal antibiotic, bacteriostatic. So many times asked question is which of the following is bactericidal antibiotic, which of the following is bacteriostatic antibiotic. For that we are supposed to by heart these all the things what you are having. Generally, if you are taking penicillin, that penicillin is going to have so many things are there by changing the side chain R. And I am not going to write the structures of all these antibiotics because these antibiotics are going to have the main nucleus are there. Already I wrote sulfalenamide, esters and all these things we wrote off. And those things will be again we are having here. And you people can able to refer NCERT textbook where we can able to find all the structures for your antibiotics. If we can able to remember certain points like how many nitrogens are there, how many OH groups are there, like that if they are asking, just we can able to see once glance for an structure of antibiotic. We can't able to give assurance like they won't ask the structure, but you should have an idea by looking at the structure. Yeah, this is ranitidine. This is going to be ipironiazid. This is going to be chloramphenicol. Like that you should have an idea. For getting that idea, just refer the structures which are there in your NCERT textbook. So this is about your antibiotics and antiseptics and disinfectants we will discuss in the next class. Okay. So thank you students. We will continue tomorrow the remaining antimicrobial drugs, that is antiseptics and disinfectants.